Hello and welcome to another Advanced Skeleton video. This time we'll cover some more of the new things in Advanced Skeleton 4. And for this video we're gonna rig up this octopus. We'll start from the top and we'll use the pre-section to reference in the model. And by bringing in the model this way, it gets automatically assigned to a display layer called High and Templated. Next we'll create the Fit Skeleton node and just set the overall scale of our character. Now for this character we're not going to bring in any of the Fit Skeleton templates, as none of these really suits a octopus character. But instead we're going to create our Fit Skeleton using limbs. Now the simplest of the limbs is called Basic, and I'll show you how we can use this to create a tentacle. Now we'll make sure the mid checkbox is not on, as we want the tentacle to be on the side and get mirrored. And I'll template the geometry again to make it easier to do the placement. And hit create. So what we're seeing here is that it actually created two objects. This is because there's a requirement for Advanced Skeleton to have a single top node placed in the middle. And as we didn't have one already, it created one for us. This is the required center top node, and we'll see it's called root by default. And you might have noticed I clicked on the cylinder, yet the locator got selected. This is because we are in fit mode. In this mode you can click on any of the geometry and it will redirect your selection to the appropriate locator. Let's go ahead and position the root and this first locator of the tentacle. Now that the first locator for the tentacle is created, we're gonna go ahead and create the next one. But before doing so, we'll make sure this first one is selected. Then that will automatically become the parent for the next one. And we can see the new locator got created, parented to the previous selected locator, and aligned. We'll go ahead and position this one, and we'll now start using the G hotkey. This is the shortcut for repeat command, and it's going to allow us to very quickly plot out the position of these locators. Okay, we have now moved and scaled the locators in place to match the tentacle. However, you'll see that the orientation of some of the locators are flipped around. And to address this, we're gonna have a closer look at the up vector, which in Advanced Skeleton is called directions. So we'll go ahead and turn on the visualization of the direction. And we'll see a locator for which is the up vector of all the locators in the limb we just created. Now we can move this around to find a up vector that works well for all the locators. Now for this tentacle, it works well to put the up vector down here. As you can see, we get a unified orientation of all the locators across the tentacle. Another thing that's good to be aware of is hierarchy mode. Clicking the button toggles between hierarchy mode and standard fit mode. And the difference is in the behavior of the Fit Skeleton locators. If I grab a Fit Skeleton locator and move it in standard fit mode, this is what you'll see. Now if we go to hierarchy mode, you'll see it inherits the transform, as if it was parented. We'll now go ahead and create the rest of the tentacles. now we have a fit skeleton created, let's go ahead and build the advanced skeleton. And we'll apply some quick skinning using the skin cage. And we'll just grab a bunch of controllers to test. Now you can see I can very quickly switch between seeing the motion system and hiding the motion system. Now this is a very useful function, and it's suggested that you put this on a hotkey, and you can do so through the selector. By default it's gonna assign it to your tilde key in your upper left hand corner, but once it's been assigned you can go to the hotkey editor, find the command and reassign it to any key. Having this function on the hotkey is quite handy during the setup process, but also very handy for animators who can then work in a clutter-free environment not seeing any controllers. And when they want to choose a controller, they'll just hold down the tilde key, select the side controllers, and as soon as you let go of the key, the controls are hidden again. Next thing I'll show you is driving systems. Driving system is a way to drive any pose by a single attribute. Now let's create an example with this octopus. First we're gonna make the pose we want to drive into. So, we created a pose where the octopus's tentacles are all touching his head. Let's go ahead and create the driving system. The first thing we'll see is the system has detected all the attributes and objects that are not in build pose. We'll give this new attribute a name. Let's call it Scratch Head. And the new controller will be named Tentacles. And we'll leave the checkbox on as we want this driving system mirrored. And as we can see, the character is back in build pose, but two new controllers appeared. If we select the controllers, we'll see the attribute called Scratch Head, and we can dial this in to go straight to the pose that we've set. Now to manage driving systems, there are these buttons. So if you want to have a look at the graph editor of one of our systems, we'll right click and choose Tentacles R. And we'll see a series of keys, which basically showing us all the controllers involved being driven from 0 to 10. If we want to go back to the driving system pose that we set earlier, we can simply right click on the edit, we'll go to the Tentacles right, Scratch Head, and you'll see the value of 10. The pose will be restored and the heads up display will remind you that you're currently editing driving system for Tentacles right with the Scratch Head attribute set to 10. We'll do some fine tuning, for example adjust these tentacles to have better contact with the head. And if we're happy with the new pose for the driving system, we can simply hit apply. Another thing we might want to do is set an in-between pose for a driving system. And to do that, just use your driving system controller, set the value where you want your in-between, and just hit the edit button. And the heads up display is telling us we're editing driving system for the Tentacles right, this time the Scratch Head value set to 8.8. We'll make some slight adjustments, and say at this in-between pose, we're going to change these rotations a bit. Yes, we're happy with that, we're going to hit apply. And the new behavior is now two poses, one that kicks in at a value of 8.8 and the final one at 10. Next we'll jump across to the face setup, and in the pre-section we'll choose our geometry. And we're gonna go ahead and run only the squash section. And that will give us a nice squashable head. And next I'll show you how to add dynamics to a character. Now the dynamics is located inside the selector tool. This is because it's recommended that all dynamics is done in the animation as opposed to in the setup stage. That way you don't have to carry the weight of a dynamic setup through all shots, and also it gives you animator flexibility to add dynamics anywhere. And I'll show you how it's done. First we'll select the controls we want to add dynamics. Let's grab all of the controls of one of the tentacles. And then we'll just go to the dynamics menu and hit add to selected. Now we'll see we got a couple of new attributes to the end controller here, which is the attributes to control the dynamics. Now a quick and fun way to test the dynamics is to use the interactive playback. We'll just grab the root control, give ourselves a big range. And if we now hit interactive playback and start moving the character, we'll see the dynamics updating in real time. Now this performance is a bit limited because the mesh is rather dense. So we'll go ahead and create some low-res geometry. And using the stand-in geometry, we'll get much better interactive performance. Let's go ahead and add dynamics to all the tentacles. And let's see what that looks like in interactive playback. Now that's it for this time. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.